Maximize your potential and focus on your performance. Look into your future and power up your purpose. Power people, let's change our mindset, people. Let's empower people to see all their potential. When they power up and make your official. Maximize your performance and focus on your potential. Look into your future and power up your purpose.
Welcome to the Power Up Show, Maximize Your Potential, the only place where innovation meets transformation, and you have one goal. What's that, Sheryl?
That's to power up.
Welcome to the show, you all. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm your host, Sheryl.
And we are so excited to be here on Inspire Magazine, Dreamspire TV with you today, because we have a great guest who will join us today. His name is Kelvin McCree. He's a corporate change expert, Chief Learning Officer of Laser Focused Leadership Solutions, and he's also the founder of the 8 organizational brand pillar system. And we're going to have an opportunity to chat with him today about all the exciting things that he's doing, about whether it's cultivating an agile workforce and increasing employee engagement, and so many other things that he's got on the horizon right now. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss what we have in store after this break.
Welcome back to Power Up, Maximize Your Performance with Sheryl and Eric. We're so excited to be here today, and so excited because you can follow us on our Facebook page. Definitely find out who else we have had the opportunity to interview on our Facebook page, Power Up, Maximize Your Performance, and definitely stay connected with us. We love to hear your comments and your questions. And so without further ado, I am going to introduce our guest for today, Mr. Kelvin McCree. And I have to say, Kelvin and I are friends because we've met through a training that he actually did as part of his church training that he does in connection to corporate training. So he has this really unique concept of how he relates leadership development and Christian training to make sure that the leaders of the churches are actually, operating in a manner that's going to be beneficial for their congregation, and making sure that the church stays in the now, is what I like to say, with social media and all of that good stuff. But in addition to that, Kelvin, as you stated, Eric, he's the Chief Learning Officer of Laser Focused Leadership Solutions. He also has multiple signature programs, one of which we're really going to focus on. He also has not only a corporate change agent, but he also is an author. And Kelvin has multiple books. One most recent is Navigating Defining Moments, that he is a co-author with Dr. Phillips. And so we're going to get to hear about that. He's also the founder of the 8 organizational brand pillar system, which is a system that assists businesses with developing and strengthening structural and staff engagement pillars around a consistent brand message. When I met Kelvin, he was a huge advocate on mission statements, vision statements, and making sure that companies state who they are so that their employees have the ability to know how to function, how to make decisions based on those core values and what their mission is. So I'm excited to hear from him. So let's go ahead and bring Kelvin on.
All right.
Hey, great day, everybody.
Hey there, Kelvin. Kelvin, how you doing?
Marvelous. Great day to you and Sheryl. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. I was sharing with Eric how you and I met.
Yes.
The training that you did at the church. So oftentimes people think corporate trainers are solely corporation business, but you have literally taken your skills and the things that you do in the corporate environment and bridged it over into ministry, and how churches have the ability to literally operate to where they're working on the benefits of their congregation and making it so that they are actually inviting and to retain their congregation. And also, you have a huge piece on the millennials.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So we are excited.
Yeah.
So we're excited to hear about all of this good stuff.
Just tell us everything. Tell us everything you're doing, man.
Yeah. Well, the one program that Sheryl was referring to is part of our 8 pillars of organizational structures and systems that we provide to churches as well as corporations. Not only identifying those 8 pillars, where they are, strengthening them if they have them, developing them if they don't, and then enveloping those around a consistent brand message. Because your brand is not your logo. Your brand is a mood, it's a memory, it's a moment, it's an experience. So whether that's in a church, if you're talking about membership, or if you're in a business, you're talking about customers. And that data came from, we work with over 20 different industries, over 100 different companies to gather those 8 pillars. And so this is literally real hard data that we gather from all of our clients. What were they asking us to do? What were the things that they needed? What were some of the missing pillars? And then we developed that into a system. So we're able to take that again to both churches and for-profit companies. Essentially, if you think about it this way, organizations are just the same, whether it's a church or a small business or corporation. They're still an organization. You're still dealing with people. You're still dealing with human behavior. So the only difference is churches their profit is souls, and businesses, their profit is money. But the organization is still an organization. So you still have human engagement. You still have people issues. You still need a vision. You still need a mission. You still have organizational values. You still have a need to understand functions and systems and strategies. And so that's what we've discovered. So that's why we've been able to parlay that and really share that on both ends of the spectrum.
Wow, that's really interesting. I really like how you were able to uncover the differences between, working with churches and working in organizations. Oftentimes people, whether they're entrepreneurs, they have trouble trying to be laser focused on how you can align what you can provide to their needs. And so you really showed that what you're doing is very scalable, especially if you know exactly is what they're looking for. One of the things that I thought was extremely interesting, what I found, through your website and through your bio on LinkedIn as well, you talk about your focus is to cultivate an agile workforce and increasing employee engagement. Now, every time I hear the word agile, I think of like project management, right? And little sprints to complete certain aspects of projects. So what does it mean for you when you say creating an agile workforce?
So agility simply is the ability to be fluid in thinking and to manage those thoughts and emotions across change and disruptive moments. So that's essentially kind of the short answer. Really, when you think about, if you're familiar with the stages of grief, the Kubler-Ross model of the stages of grief, those same stages actually are relevant and present even in change moments. We still go through the anger, we still go through the bargaining, we still go through the denial. All those stages are present during change. And we don't go through just one change moment. Change is a continuum. So whether it's organizational changes, introducing new policies, relational changes, COVID-19, changes in your business, staff changes, we all go through the need to have fluid thinking and managing our thoughts and managing the emotions. What I like to say is that in this day, it is not simply about skill sets. It's also about mindsets and emotional intelligence. And if we don't have those, then change becomes that much more difficult, whether as a person or whether as a team.
Wow. Yeah, that's really insightful. I mean, I think especially now, I can definitely get on board with what you're talking about with the importance of emotional intelligence because, during this pandemic, you need to be able to manage your emotions because sometimes people behind the scenes, when they're not in front of their laptop or this, video mode, they can be going through all types of things, personal and professional, and you need to be able to manage that. So I think that's extremely important. And thanks for sharing about that agile, the difference between agile with project management and agility. To where I see it is like managing your emotions and being able to adapt to the different cycles that are going on, especially during today's atmosphere.
Absolutely, absolutely. Encapsulated well.
And so, Kelvin, help us understand during this time of disruption, where I'm sure, much like all of us have been called to help out, what have you found to be a more prevalent need during this time?
As it relates to individuals or business?
Business, or both?
Yeah. Well, let's look at both. From a business perspective, it's the ability to adapt. What we found was that there was this huge shock that industry, even my industry, in the corporate training, keynote speaking, where we're normally used to getting on a plane, going on site. When COVID hit, we really had to get beyond just the initial shock and then adapt to where was the industry going. So for instance, in my case, I lost TED Talks. I lost, engagements. I mean, literally the industry was completely wiped out. So essentially, once I got past the shock of it, I had to adapt to where was the industry going. And one of the things that the industry was doing was they was going virtual. After people got past the initial shock, then they would begin to go virtual. Well, if I'm not managing my emotions properly and navigating these change moments like the Kubler-Ross model in terms of the stages of grief, once I get past the denial, I now then have to begin to start thinking about, okay, so where is this going? What are the benefits of this change and what does change look like? So essentially what we did was we built a studio, which is where we're broadcasting from now. We literally built a studio in our facility that allowed us really to meet the moment. So businesses, the challenge was how do we adapt? What does adaptation in this industry look like? How can we, in the book, The Purple Cow, how can we find our purple cow? How can we really make what we're doing better even as we change? And so one of the ways I like to share with this is a story, a guy by the name of Benjamin Vickers. He tells this story. He's a baker and he owns this bakery in our city. And he tells this story about his family who is Polish. And during the German invasion of Poland, where you had like 66,000 citizens that were either killed, about over 130,000 that was wounded. You had almost 700,000 that were captured. His family had this sage advice called adapt or perish. And when COVID hit, what he did was he applied that sage advice that he learned from his family history, that I either adapt or I perish. I either make this pivot or I go out of business. And so essentially what he did was even though his brick and mortar business basically went to a halt, he moved everything into his home and he went to ongoing deliveries. When he went back into his brick and mortar building here just about a month ago, he kept that other part of his business that he developed during COVID. Now his delivery business that he cultivated is now rivaling his brick and mortar building. Adapt or perish. So that's what we've seen with businesses. As it relates to individuals, it's really getting over. If you, when you look at the change curve, there are actually 4 blocks. The first block is kind of that, it's a rational, emotional block rather, but it's a denial. Once you get past that and you begin to explore the opportunities, that's when you tap into your discretionary effort. So what we found with individuals is they had a hard time getting past the first block. That denial, the resistance, the anger, the wanting to hold on to how things were. It's this feeling of loss. So really just trying to get them to start thinking to the second block where I get past the emotion and I now start thinking rationally. Okay, so what is available to me? What can I do? How can I change? What are some of the things we can do to expand our customer reach. And once you get to that stage, then you can begin to move over to the next stage where you're now thinking about now my discretionary effort, which is where we get our endorphins from, the excitement, where we're starting to get excited about this next move. We saw individuals, having a problem or at least a challenge getting to those blocks.
That is so interesting because we often talk about the event, right? And what you don't have control over. And oftentimes you don't have control over the event,
right?
But you have control over your response to the event.
Absolutely.
Which kind of designates what your outcome looks like. This is awesome. Listen, we're going to go to a break right now because this is a great discussion, and we're going to come back and we're going to continue talking with Mr. Kelvin McCree. So stay tuned and definitely come back and join us.
Welcome back. We've been talking with Kelvin McCree, corporate change expert, chief learning officer of Laser Focused Leadership Solutions, and founder of the 8 organizational brand pillar system. We've been having a great discussion with him so far. And Kelvin, you're the first guest so far that I have heard who can really crystallize the stages that people are going through during this pandemic. It's more than just a time of disruption. There is a process, a mental and emotional process that we all have to get through. And you've been able to, so far, I've been hearing you able to really crystallize what those stages are in that process and how to get them to the present and meet people at their moment. And so I'm curious for you, I'm sure you've had to go through some stages yourself. So what kind of skills or what kind of leadership skills allowed you to really persevere and manage this time of disruption?
Awesome. The main one is what we've been discussing, is really thinking with an agile mindset. It's really thinking about, okay, what is the shift that's taking place, both externally, but then also what is the shift that needs to take place in my own mind, internally. Really, when we think about this, as Sheryl mentioned earlier, we have less control over our external things that happen in life or business. But the principle of neuroscience says that I do have control over thoughts in my own mind. And so for me, it was really after let me be very transparent. I went through some of the same stages, maybe not as long as others, as in states of grief. People go through different stages at different lengths of time. I did have the shock. I lost a TED Talk that I had been working on for a year. So I went through the shock, but being able to think in terms of with an agile mindset, being able to manage my emotions and being able to look at what are the opportunities that are available once I make that internal mind shift and once I begin to explore the opportunities. I know many people have struggled this year. This has been one of the best years in business we have ever had. And much of it came as a result of having to think with an agile mindset, let go of the fixed mindset that we often engage with, and being able to see what are the possibilities within the context of this change. So for me, that was the biggest thing is the mindset, not having a fixed mindset, not having a mindset that was longing for the past or longing for what was being taken away from us as a result of COVID-19.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, when you talk about mindset, that's something that you can control, right? Not these outside circumstances. And so I know a lot of people, they try their best to do things, whether it's meditating or whether it's affirmation videos or things like that. You're working on something called Navigate Now. Is that correct?
Yes, Navigate Now was an initiative that literally came out of COVID-19. And so we saw, again, we work with both churches, we work with small businesses, we work with larger corporations. And so one of things we were finding out with churches was that many of them were not equipped to move into a virtual space. And so as a result of that feedback, I really just had this kind of aha moment, this revelation, this unction, this inner knowing that we need to put something together to help them to cross over from where they were over into the other side of what in a context of scripture, cross over to the other side of the boat. So we created Navigate Now, and we brought in experts. We brought in Hollywood movie producers who can help churches be able to communicate differently or more effectively in a virtual space, which is very different than communicating in your brick and mortar or in your church itself. We brought in systems and strategy experts so that people can understand what are the systems and strategies that you need for online or virtual engagement. We brought in people who could talk about branding. What does branding look like? Branding is not just your logo. Branding is not just your website. And so we brought in literally New York, Manhattan experts, to talk about those things. So we literally brought in people who had expertise in areas to really help churches who oftentimes fail to invest in infrastructure and technology and those types of things. So that's really what Navigate Now is about. We just ended our second summit on yesterday. Again, you're probably familiar with Simon T. Bailey. So we brought in people literally who could talk about customer engagement or in a church membership engagement. We brought in people to talk about touch points on your website, even what are the rules now for handicap access on your website. Many people don't realize that you can be sued now by your website not being handicap accessible. And so we literally brought in experts to really help churches. And that's where Navigate Now, what it does. And that, again, emerged out of COVID.
Wow, that's so aptly titled, too. Navigate Now. I love that. Let me bring Sheryl in because I know she's got at least another question she wants to ask. It might be the Power Up card. I'm not sure, but go ahead.
Well, it's all so interesting and unique in the way that you roll it out, especially for churches as well as for businesses. So thank you so much for being here today. Now, I do want to have an opportunity to talk about the new book.
Sure, love to.
Yes. Yes. So it is called Navigating Defining Moments.
Yes.
So tell us about that. How can the person get the book? When is it available?
Yes. We're in the pre-order stage. We've been in there for about a little under 2 months. We will be rolling that out in about 2 weeks. Navigating Defining Moments, again, is a book that came out of, we wanted to continue to add value. But we wanted to also provide people a manifesto on how to navigate change moments, how to manage disruption, how to develop agile thinking. Because often we talk about it, but we don't show people the process of how to get across where I am, across that threshold to the other side. So Dr. Phil and I partnered on this book. And we literally provided a manifesto on the mindset. Am I going to be a victim or am I going to be a victor? We define what mental agility is. We use examples like Oprah Winfrey and Martin Luther King. We tell stories in the book about how were they change agents and what are the thresholds that they had to cross in order to meet the moment. We talk about emotional intelligence. We tell stories from our own lives about some of the things that we had to do in order to navigate different points in our lives. So it literally is a manifesto. It's a roadmap. It's dealing with your mind, your emotions, tangible examples. There are reflection questions at the end of each chapter to help you literally process the information from that chapter, because we know that the greatest discovery is not in telling, the greatest discovery is in asking. And so we ask questions at the end of each chapter so that you can imprint and crystallize some of your discoveries. So they can get anyone can get the book now at navigatenow.org. And go to navigatenow.org and click on the image there. You can pre-order your book. It's a hard copy. Okay. So it's a high quality book. We put a lot of work into this book. We're very happy with the product. The foreword was written by an amazing worldwide consultant, Dr. Sam Chan. If you're familiar with him, he's like the creme de la creme of consultants. Simon T. Bailey wrote some a commentary on the book. The mayor of our city, multimillionaire here in our city, wrote a commentary on the book. We got a lot of people really who endorsed it, who really said this is a book that you need to have in your hands. So this book, I would warn you, will eliminate all the excuses for not managing change.
Love it. I love it. Guys, you heard it here on Power Up. You have got to get this book. Go to Navigate Now. Get your copy early. That's what I'm going to say. Get your copy early so that you can definitely have it. Kelvin, thank you so much. Before you leave, though, we have this thing that we do on Power Up, where we have our Power Up cards, which I hope you can see right here. Yes. And so what you're going to do, my friend, is you're just going to pick a card and we're going to see what your question is.
All right.
This one?
That one right there.
Let's pick the one in the middle, since that's the threshold. We're talking about crossing thresholds. So let's pick the one in the middle.
There we go. Okay, the middle is going this way. There we go. All right. What do you dream of achieving one day?
Wow, what do I dream of achieving one day? I would like to, my goal has been since 2016 is to reach 1 million people and help transform their thinking to better engage life, to better engage change, and to come out on the other side of it as a victor.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. So my goal, 1 million people, has been my goal since 2016. So we're working toward that number.
All right.
There you go. And hopefully Power Up will help you get there. We'll help you get there.
You got Eric and Sheryl, both of you have been phenomenal. Y'all are helping us get to that number. So once we hit 1 million, you hear the bell ring. You know you were part of that.
There you go. We'll have you come back and ring the bell on the show.
Yeah, there we go. I hold you to that. That's a deal.
Kelvin, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Is there anything that you would like to leave the viewers as to what is your message for Power Up? What is the one thing that they can do?
The one thing that they can do is they can begin to explore the latent potential on the inside of themselves and not allow moments to rob them of that discovery. Don't allow the moment to rob you of the discovery that there's latent potential on the inside of you that's waiting to be resurrected.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. You have an amazing day, my friend.
All right. You too. Take care, Eric. Bless you.
All right. Take care. Good to see you.